Hi all, I'm Hardie. Welcome to the 17th episode of my Hypertravel with Hardie video series about all the pictures I've taken around the world in the last 10, 15, 20 years and my narrative description of these places. This week we're going to Cambodia. First, the backstory. My first trip to Cambodia was back around 1997, shortly after the long national nightmare named Khmer Rouge had finally been subdued and later Pol Pot subjugated, and the victor Vietnamese had left the country to its own devices after presiding over it for a decade or so. People lived on the streets with their beds, and women sold their bodies to make ends meet. Fast forward a decade, and the country had made great strides in joining the family of modern nations with much cleaner streets and real jobs and a burgeoning tourist trade to rival the best in Southeast Asia. Fast forward another decade to 2017, and I'm making my third visit with an eye to spending some time, if the opportunity arises and the conditions are right. I'm also applying to monk college for Buddhist studies after living in Thailand off and on for almost half my life. I also stayed stateside for the first year, maybe ever, in 2015 to run a traveler's hospital in Tucson, Arizona. After which I've been doing temple time in Thailand to immerse myself in Buddhism. I entered Cambodia, this time through the Thai land border on the Gulf of Thailand seacoast. By then it's rapidly becoming a Chinese colony. Fast forward to the present, and Cambodia is developing rapidly as a Chinese colony. Due to their interest and investments, unsure, and it scares me, to be honest. The too rapid development of the world's last frontiers. To what end, I'm not sure. But I'm afraid it's not all good, notwithstanding the fact that life has probably never been better for the average citizen of the average country on any average day in the life of the world. Clock ticking. One of the phenomena of border life is the presence of two currencies, especially where the two countries are unequal, and here you have it in three, thanks to the meta presence of the dollar, Uber currency, which is dinaro franco by default, in addition to the Thai baht and the local rial, which is suitable really only for small purchases, and which you find most readily as change for dollars. Notice the similarity in pronunciation between the local rial and various reales, reals, and rials around the world. Ditto languages. I count 3, so use them if you got them. Since my Khmer is in its nascent phase and my Thai is probably better than most people's English, then I use it intentionally. Just to survey its prevalence and not to have to resort to English, which puts me in a category I'd rather not be in. Tourist. So, Kok Kong is dirty, shabby, undeveloped, and unexciting. I love it. If that means no wild parties, then so be it. If I wanted a full moon party, then it'd be in Kok Phangan, not Kok Kong. By the way, Kok means island, so this is best referred to as Kok Kong City, since the island itself is down the road and nobody says Kemara Pumin, as sometimes seen on maps. And there are a few Western-oriented pubs and restos here, pizza especially, so you shouldn't have too many withdrawal symptoms if that's your predilection. And yes, Thai language and Khmer have much in common, but not all, so you have about a 20-25% head start if you're fluent in Thai and want to try it. So maybe half that for Lao. But it's here mostly at the mid-level of commerce, not Congress, except maybe sexual, I don't know. But especially hotels, transportation, and upmarket transactions, the same places where the local currency would likely go not too far. But there's really not much to do. Perfect. The town is on the water, the prime beach is some 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles away, so pack a lunch or take your chances. I'll wait for Sihanoukville. First, the bad news. Cambodia is the trashiest place on earth. Bar none, so you won't have to wait for my end-of-year worst list. And this is not cool for what was once Southeast Asia's premier culture, mother to all others and father to a few too. At first I thought maybe it was just Kok Kong, since that's where I entered, but no, it's everywhere. I haven't seen trash on the street like this since Paracas, Peru, and Africa is infamous, of course. Other than that, it's a pretty nice place and a far cry from what you would have found maybe 20, 10, even 5 years ago, when cops would stop you on the street to get paid and 16-year-old hookers from Vietnam would do pretty much the same. But that was before the big tourism boom. What with casinos, easy visas, and ancient ruins, the big draws. And as you go for the dark side. I'm sure some of that still exists. All that glitters is not gold. So, Otre Speech, a $5 taxi ride down the road is the new hotspot for foreign development, whether tourism, residence, or investments. And the islands are prime targets in the Leonardo-like search for the ultimate beach. And I'm not talking Leonardo da Vinci. Islands that are currently without power will have it next year, and Wi-Fi will then follow in some expansive pattern that is logarithmic, if not algorithmic. If you don't find exactly what you want, then wait until next year, or better yet, do it yourself. Bottom line, anything is better than where Cambodia was 20 years ago, when the only engine for tourist interest was Angkor Wat and Teenage Twat, $2 a pop, kilometer number such and such on the outskirts of Phnom Penh, and not much more at a then dormant Siem Reap, where my 1992 Khmer language manual brags about its 70,000 tourists per year. Probably a regular day in high season nowadays. If you speak the language, then you can just retreat further up into the hills, I guess, fleeing the advance of tourist civilization. If you don't, then just go to the next island out and everybody else will follow you soon thereafter. But first there's Kampot, which offers a genuine alternative to both extremes. This is a colonial gem. A bit down at the heels, but not for long, if the culinary offerings are to be taken as the yardstick for measurement. Next stop is Phnom Penh. My first time in Phnom Penh was 1997, and it was pretty bad, I'll have to admit. Little more than a decade after the killing fields in Vietnam installed current strongman Hun Sen, and you could see it on people's faces, fear, abject fear, as if they weren't really sure if the nightmare was yet really over. With all the current hubbub over Islamic fundamentalists, ISIL, Boko Haram, and Al-Shabaab, we sometimes forget that Maoists and Stalinists were guilty of many similar crimes in the decades immediately preceding whether China, Peru, Nepal, or Cambodia. In the center of the town itself, the streets were mostly dark, anywhere off Moniwang Boulevard and its new $25 Chinese businessman-style hotels with local people erecting screened platforms on the street to serve as beds and makeshift shelters. Movable in daytime and commercial activity mostly limited to Moniwang and the new market area. Not far away, Sharky's Bar was the bright spot for foreigners, now one of many, except for the journalists at the Foreign Correspondents Club down by the river. Bars for Westerners were popping up, both pub-friendly and speakeasy. Pidgin English, the lingua franca for international relations, and local people out on the riverside lawn, both day and night. The fear now gone from the old folks' eyes and the younger generation growing up without nightmares. Tourism passed 1 million per year in 2004, and the country has never looked back. There's even a backpacker ghetto now, just like the ones elsewhere, whether Khao San or Van Bien or Sihanoukville, or God knows where. Price of a room, not much more than the price of a meal, and even cheaper if you're sharing. Pizza's a staple food and beer is currency. Just remember to wash up after and don't let the bed bugs bite. The sanitation problem can also be a hygiene problem. That doesn't necessarily mean that the place is dirty. The only problem for me now is that it's too darn hot, and I suspect that's pretty much the same year-round, accounting for the vagaries of rain and shine. So I'm on the tropical schedule around town before noon and after dark. In between, I'm here on the machine, punching keys and swatting fleas and showering 14 times a day approximately. The rooms suck too, everywhere I've been so far, stagnant and sweltering, so that gets old. $10 goes farther for a room in Thailand in general. Oh yeah, they got temples here too. Wat Lanka near Independence Monument offering sporadic meditation sessions, but nothing intensive. For that, the head priest says you have to go to Battambang. Me, I'm going to the hills. Stay tuned. San Manoram or bust. In general, there are no more buses, and the van drivers are maniacs, so I'll get there in no time, if I get there at all. San Manoram is sometimes called the Switzerland of Cambodia, but in reality it's more Andean than Alpine, high and dry, at least in this season, more Central Highland than Himalaya, more Bolivia than Burma, more High Plains drifter than long-lost kingdom of Shambhala. I like it. I've been checking tips all over the region in my perennial search for temperate climes in temperate times, and Mondulkiri seems possible, if not guaranteed. I should have been checking wind speeds too. It's brisk, thus making San Manoram Cambodia's coolest option, complete with local tribal types and lots of nature. Okay, so it's not Sapa in North Vietnam, but still not bad. And winters are another consideration, of course, if we're talking long stays. And that's the backstory here, that I'm looking for fallback options to park my non-self for any indefinite periods of time in which I don't have any place better to be. No small consideration. The best part for now is that not only do I have decent digs, a real room, real furniture, reasonable price, and natural light, but even a movie channel or two on TV. And the proprietress speaks absolutely no English. This is huge. You can't request this with your online bookings. You have to live a charmed life like me, I guess. And that's the only way you'll ever get fluent in the lingo. Just say goodbye to John, Paul, George, and Ringo in order to immerse yourself in the local culture and language. Then they have to leave the wannabe English speakers behind. Ouch, alas and alack, since they won't help you go forward, only back. So the days consist of long walks on lonely roads and long talks with myself about the future and the past, anything but the present, which is best experienced in its immediacy, silent meditation, still sitting on the internal dialogues or historical dialectic that clutter consciousness like so many letter-plagued roadsides in Cambodia. But something's wrong. I'm forgetting something. I'm forgetting that one requirement for semi-retirement quasi-confinement locale for a late life layover is proximity to quality medical care. That was one reason I was first interested in Gokong, Cambodia, its proximity to Thailand and their healthcare system. I even rehearsed a mock evacuation scenario with a friend who's also considering renting and retiring in Cambodia. And now I have a serious problem, kidney stone complications. It's happening again. This is not a test. 24 hours later, I'm looking for a hospital in Bangkok. A year later, I'm back, ready to settle down in Mondulkiri, since I've converted to online for my Buddhist studies in South Thailand, and this seems like a good place to do it, until the local market burns down. Now the town isn't much, and the market was even less, but you gotta have one, so I left, vowing to return. That I did another year later, but still no market, so I left again, vowing to see what else of interest might be here for me in this country before I left it for good. So I spent some time in the tourist metropolis of Siem Reap and the second city of Battambang, along with all the previous others, all of which are not my favorite climate, so I haven't been back since. That may change soon, since I've got a hot date with Battambang, almost by serendipity, so stay tuned. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.